Okay, this is going to be a look at some of the editing features in Auria Pro for MIDI and audio. Let's look at MIDI first. Double tap, you can open up the MIDI Editor. Here we are in the MIDI Editor. Right now, we're looking at velocity. I'm going to draw a velocity stair step. So now we have increasing velocity across each of the notes. You can use tools in the process menu to change the velocity of the notes in your sequence. You can compress, you can change the gain, you can limit them, you can change the range of the velocity, and you can rescale the velocity. So let's have a look at some of those features, because these are not typically found in many of the MIDI editing features of most DAWs, although there are some AU plugins that are beginning to cover some of this area, such as the Audio Veek plugins. So here I have my stair step. Let's change the gain. Let's reduce it. As you can see, it's heavily reduced by what I just did with the dial. And I can increase the velocity gain. Same way. I can also compress the velocity. Hard to tell, but that's the same effect that you would probably get in an audio compression scheme of the same type. I can also limit the velocity beyond a certain threshold. Now, the rescale, I'm not sure, there may be a problem with this, but you can rescale the velocity. It appears not to be working. I think this is a bug that was just reported to Wave Machine Labs. So that doesn't work, but you can imagine what it would do. Range, did I do range? Minimum, maximum. This is good too. You can change the upper and lower limits, which is very handy. This is super handy for expressive performances of, say, piano pieces, keyboard pieces, especially the drums. This is where I really like to use these features, and it's one of the things that keeps me with Auria Pro, because I'm not a particular fan of this editing interface. The piano roll editor is a little awkward and difficult to use. But that said, I think you'll see. Let's have a look at a couple of things. You can also, of course, transpose easily, which is nice because you can't lock the vertical and horizontal position of a selection, which I really don't like about MIDI editors if they don't have that function, because you can end up sliding things all over the place, and it doesn't really make for a quick and pleasurable experience. Legato works very nicely. Oh, humanize will change the velocity. So here we have that fairly neatly drawn stair step. If we go to humanize, drag, humanize, okay. Now let's look at what happened. Yes, you can see that the velocity has been randomly changed. And you can, of course, mitigate that by how much you dial it in with the dial here, which is also a great feature. Fixed velocity, let's see. Yeah, changes the velocity to the same level through the whole selection. Humanize, Legato, optimize controller data, that's a separate issue. Pedal to length, quantize, we know what that is. Restrict polyphony. I suppose if you had chords here with, say, I don't know, 8 to 10 voices, you could restrict how many of those voices will play. You could assign it here. I don't know how it chooses in terms of priority. Reverse, which is handy as well. So that's a kind of a look at the MIDI tools in Auria Pro. I think it's something rather unique. Also, here's something else we should look at. Under the channel, the MIDI channel, you have these parameters. These are related, some of them, to the same thing we were just looking at, except you have these two extra ones here for randomness, which is a nice feature. You can assign randomness to velocity, length, and position on two different scales. Of course, there's all the quantized features. It's a very comprehensive MIDI editing, selection of MIDI editing tools. So now let's look at audio. Something that makes Auria Pro stand out quite a bit is that it features quantization of audio. You can warp it, you can change the pitch, and you can quantize it to a grid. So here we have just me talking. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm trying to use the okay.
4, 5.
This was recently fixed.
7.
The scrub function. It doesn't work for MIDI. It just works for audio, and it requires 2 fingers on the timeline, on the top indicator, measurement indicator, and then you drag from there. It's a helpful feature. Another thing that not many
4, 5.
DAWs have, not of this type. Multitrack Studio has probably the best. But anyway, let's go back to manipulating audio, something else that makes Auria Pro something you might want to stick with. Although, again, Multitrack Studio does have audio movement, audio warping, but it doesn't have quantizing, I don't believe. Sorry if I'm wrong on that. To do this, you go to the left of the track in this view, and you go to Markers. And these are Transient Markers. And you can place these, or you can have it do it on its own. Let's do this on our own. If you go under the Edit menu, go to Transients. Transients. Yes, you have to select it when the blue outline is on the segment. You can add the markers. So we'll add a transient marker there. We can add a transient marker here. It'd be nice if you could redo things, like commands like that. So there we have our transient markers. Now in transient marker position, you really can't really do much with this. But if where it says TRN green, if you hit that and put it in warp, if you select a transient marker so it turns white, and then put your finger on it, hold it, you can move it. This is a fantastically valuable tool in my estimation, anyway. So what we can do is I could quantize this. Something else is to get a habit of understanding where these commands are. This is sort of a Windows, MS Windows kind of a interface here. In some ways, you have to remember where the toolbar is. So if we went to transients and we wanted to quantize, I'd have to select it again. Edit, transients, audio quantize, strength, window, large. Okay. Wow. Well, there we go. Slam bang. Okay, so I guess the window is what it will grab and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. So it did. It placed everything on the quantized position. So that's how that works. Now, if you'd also like to change the pitch, you double tap and hold so that you can select within a segment. Just double tap and hold till it turns into the translucent square, rectangle, whatever. And then you can drag it to make your selection. All right, you have to turn warping off. So you want to do your pitch before you warp. Although, when I turn warping back on again, it puts everything back where it was. So it's not like it's destructive to turn off the warp. But for this, let's go ahead and change this. 5, 6. So we'll go under the process menu. And here is the typical frequency features that you'd find in a process of this nature. So let's see what we get here. Can't open file. Well, that's interesting. 5. This is why using Auria Pro can be a challenge. So here you see, this is good because this. If any of you use this program, you already know that this is the kind of thing that happens to you. And I don't know if this is something I did.
5, 6.
But something else you don't want to have to figure out is what fatal flaw you made in your movements that caused it to give up the ghost. So let's deselect that and select something else. See if that changes anything. Edit. Is it process? Yes, process pitch. +1. Okay. Processing pitch. Okay. Apparently it creates some kind of a file in the background. And for whatever reason, it couldn't find that one. I guess it's because I went in and out of warp. So I don't really know what to tell you there. But let's see what we have. 5, 6, 7. Okay, it sounds bad because mobile. Okay, so what we want to do is use the Pro. So you hear what the mobile sounds like. Not that great, especially not for voice. So let's try that again. Hey, let's try back in the same place we were before. See if we still get that error. Okay, process, pitch. Let's go up to... Yeah, hey, it works. Isn't that awesome?
5,
6. So there, it's better.
5,
6, 7, 4,
5,
6, 7. And we can go down, of course. Let's go way down. 4, 6,
Okay.
7. All right. I really kind of wanted to show you just those few things about Auria. In fairness, these are some powerful tools to have to be able to use if this is the kind of thing you want to do. Anytime you're choosing a DAW, what's going to make you happy is when it does what you want it to do. And that's the secret. You have to find something that does what you want it to do because they all don't do certain things. So I hope that shed some light on things for you, and I'll see you next time.